point of view mini stories for bad choices. Same story, different time. Let's start the first one with 3 years ago. We'll have to imagine this happened 3 years ago. 3 years ago, David Beckham was a man who wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to be a famous movie star and a famous soccer player at the same time. So he moved to Hollywood. He hooked up with Tom Cruise. They hit it off immediately. Tom liked David. David liked Tom. Beckham said, "Tom, the bottom line is that I want to be a movie star just like you. Can you help me?" Tom said, "Of course. My gut tells me you will be a big success in Hollywood." So Tom introduced Beckham to a director who was very powerful. The director made a movie with Beckham. But it was a terrible movie. Everybody hated it, and they hated Beckham. The public felt a powerful animosity towards Beckham. They couldn't stand him. They yelled at him and threw things at him. Beckham couldn't deal with the public's animosity. He was a guy who was very sensitive, so he became scared. He felt this was a dire situation. Beckham was so scared he wouldn't leave his house. He kept the windows closed and the doors locked. He became paranoid and wouldn't even leave to play soccer. Finally, his team manager said, "This is a situation which is unacceptable. You're fired." Beckham cried. Oh, he had no job and nobody could stand him. All right, let's change the time a little bit. This time we're going to talk about the story, but that Beckham has always wanted to do these things, okay? So these have been happening for a while. Beckham has always been a man who has wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He has always wanted to be a famous movie star and a famous football player. He has always wanted to move to Hollywood. He has always wanted to hook up with Tom Cruise, and he has hoped they would hit it off immediately. David has always liked Tom Cruise. Tom has always liked David. Well, one day, Beckham said, "Look, Tom, the bottom line is that I want to be a movie star just like you. Can you help me?" Tom said, "Of course. My gut tells me you will be a big success in Hollywood." So Tom introduced Beckham to a director who was very powerful. The director made a movie with Beckham, but it was a terrible movie. Everybody hated it, and they hated Beckham. The public felt a powerful animosity towards Beckham. They couldn't stand him. They yelled at him. They threw things at him. Beckham couldn't deal with the public's animosity. He was a guy who was very sensitive. He has always been a guy who was very sensitive. He felt this was a dire situation. Beckham was so scared he wouldn't leave his house. He kept the windows closed and the doors locked. He became paranoid and wouldn't even leave to play soccer. Finally, his team manager called and said, "This is a situation which is unacceptable. You're fired." Beckham cried. He had no job and nobody could stand him. Okay, you'll notice that I use the perfect, the have been, have gone, that verb tense, when I was talking about things that have always been true or that were true for a while in the past, maybe starting in the past until now, or maybe over some time in the past, a range of time. And then when I talked about specific conversations, specific actions, I used the simple past. All right, don't think about that too much. Listening is how you will improve your grammar, listening and practicing. Why is not a good question about grammar or language. Don't ask why. If you want a PhD, a doctorate in linguistics, you can ask why. If you want to be fluent, if you want to speak English easily and naturally, don't ask why. Okay? Just learn it. Just listen carefully. Just do the lessons. You will improve, I promise. All right, next, let's talk about the future. In fact, maybe this is going to be a true story, right? Let's think what's going to happen to David Beckham when he comes to Hollywood. He's moving to Los Angeles. That's true. What's going to happen? Let's imagine. This is what I think will happen. So now, the future. Next year, David Beckham is moving to Los Angeles. And he is a man who wants to have his cake and eat it too. I think he will want to be a famous movie star and a famous football player at the same time. That's why he's moving to Hollywood. He's gonna hook up with Tom Cruise. They'll hit it off. David will like Tom. Tom will like David. Beckham will say to Tom, the bottom line is, I want to be a movie star just like you. Can you help me? Tom will say, of course. My gut tells me you are gonna be a big success in Hollywood. So Tom will introduce Beckham to a director who will be very powerful. The director will make a movie with Beckham. But it's gonna be a terrible movie. Everybody will hate it, and they'll hate Beckham too. The public will feel a powerful animosity towards Beckham. They won't be able to stand him. They'll yell at him and throw things at him. Beckham won't be able to deal with the public's animosity. He's a guy who is very sensitive, so he'll be scared. He'll feel this is a dire situation. Beckham will be so scared he won't leave his house. He'll keep the windows closed and the doors locked. He'll become paranoid, and he won't even leave to play soccer. Finally, his team manager will call and say, this is a situation which is unacceptable. You're fired. Beckham will cry. He'll have no job, and nobody will be able to stand him. All right, did you notice in the future, when we're talking about the future, we say will be able to instead of can, right? Instead of can stand him, I'll say will be able to stand him in the future. And you'll also, in the future, you have to listen very carefully, because in real speech, not textbooks, but real American English, we add ul to the subject, right? Beckham'll do this. Beckham'll do that. Now, in a textbook, you will see Beckham will go to Los Angeles. But we say Beckham'll. The ul gives you the future. Beckham will go to Los Angeles. And in the textbook, you'll see going to. Beckham is going to make a movie. But in real speech, we say gonna. Beckham's gonna. Right? We don't say Beckham is going to. We say Beckham's gonna. Beckham's, apostrophe S, gonna. Beckham's gonna make a movie. Beckham's gonna do this. Beckham's gonna do that. Beckham will go. Beckham will come. So we use is gonna and ul for the future in real speech. That's how we actually say it when we speak. So listen carefully for that. Listen very carefully when you hear those future versions. Now, please go back, listen to each version, pause after the version, tell it yourself. Try to tell it yourself. If you can't, it's okay. Relax, rewind, listen again. Rewind, listen again every day. It's not a race. Just relax. Enjoy it. Okay. See you next time. Welcome to the vocabulary lesson for bad choices. Let's get started. This is actually not a Dear Abby letter. It's a Dear Dr. Tracy letter, another advice column, but same idea. So here we go. Okay, first of all, in the beginning, we see the word divorced. Of course, divorced means you're not married anymore. You were married, and then you broke the marriage. Now you are divorced. Okay, and then we see the word approximately. Approximately means about, almost, kind of. So she says, I've been divorced for approximately 3 years. Means about 3 years. Not exactly 3 years, but, close to 3 years. Okay, and then she said when she met her new boyfriend, she said they hit it off very quickly. When you talk about people hitting it off or to hit it off, it means you like each other very quickly. So you go to a party, you meet someone new, and you say, wow, we hit it off. It means you started talking and immediately or very quickly you liked each other. So that's to hit it off. Sometimes it's used with dating, sometimes just friendship is fine also. Okay. Then a little bit later in the paragraph, she says she found out that her boyfriend was fooling around with someone else. Now, in this case, in a situation, fooling around in a dating situation means basically having sex with somebody. And it has an idea of very casual. It's not a deep, serious relationship. So if you say, someone asks you, are you dating? Are you dating that person? And you say, no, we're just fooling around. It just means you're just having fun, maybe having sex, but that's all. It's not a super serious relationship. So her boyfriend was fooling around with someone else. She found out that he was having sex with somebody else. And of course, she's not happy. All right, but then she said, I figured that since we didn't have a committed relationship, that it was no problem. I figured means I thought. Sometimes we'll say, I figure this is a good thing to do. It means I think it's a good thing to do. So to figure means to think. It has other meanings maybe too, but in this case, and usually, it's kind of a casual way to say think or believe. Okay, and then she said she figured she had no place to say anything because they did not have a committed relationship. A committed relationship is a serious relationship where you say, I'm only with you, you're only with me. That's a committed relationship. So if you're married, that's a committed relationship. If you have a very serious boyfriend or girlfriend, that's a committed relationship. It's not just fooling around. It's a committed relationship, serious. So she said, we didn't have a committed relationship, so I had no place to say anything. To have no place to do something, it means you have no good reason. So I had no place to say anything means I have no good reason to complain, to say something to him, to complain, oh, why are you with that other woman? Because they did not have a committed relationship, she had no place to say something to him, to complain. She had no good reason to complain. All right, and she mentions in that first paragraph also that she found out that this guy, her boyfriend, went with another woman to his family reunion. A reunion is kind of a meeting, but it's a meeting of people from your past. So a family reunion means all of your family members come together and they meet one time. Not just your close family, not just your mom and your dad or brother or sister. It also means aunts, uncles, cousins, your really big family. Probably you don't see them a lot. Depends, I guess. Some people live near their big families. But in America, most people don't live near their extended families, their big families. So they have a family reunion sometimes where all the family, the cousins, the aunts, the grandparents, the uncles, everybody gets together at one time. That's called a family reunion. So a family reunion. A family reunion. All right, so then let's move on to the next paragraph for the vocabulary. She says, I guess my issue is the fact that now I'm still in this relationship. She's still with him. She says, my issue, I guess my issue. My issue means my problem. Issue sometimes means topic, but also sometimes it means a problem. Especially in relationships or psychologically, mentally. If we say I have issues or I have an issue, then usually that means I have a problem or I have problems. So she says, I guess my issue is the fact that I have a child with him now and all this stuff is still happening. So she says, I guess my problem. This is her problem, her issue, her problem. Okay, so she's still dating him. But she says, I brought a child into this nonsense. So she's dating her boyfriend. Her boyfriend has another woman, and now they have a child together. Oh, it's complicated. Anyway, she says, I brought a child into this nonsense. So brought a child into means just she gave birth. She had a baby, and now the baby is in this situation also. The child is in this situation. And nonsense means something that's foolish, stupid, crazy. So in this case, this nonsense means this crazy, stupid situation. So now there's a child involved in this crazy situation, in this nonsense. Nonsense. Okay, and then she says that the boyfriend always makes an excuse. He's always making excuses. An excuse is a reason for doing something that's wrong, right? So if you're late to class, and I say, "Why are you late?" And you say, oh, the bus was late. That's your excuse, right? It's the reason you did something wrong. Being late to class is wrong. It's not a big wrong, but it's a small thing. But it's a mistake or it's something wrong. And your reason for doing something wrong is called an excuse. So you say, oh, the bus is late. That's your excuse. That's your reason for doing something that's bad or wrong or criticized. All right, and a little later on in that second paragraph, she says, I have dealt with him taking women to hotels, and my gut tells me it was her. Okay, I have dealt with. To deal with something, to deal with a situation, to deal with a person. It means you keep trying to solve problems in that situation. You don't quit, but you also don't solve the problem. So it really has this idea of continuing to survive or continuing to try, usually some difficult situation. So she says, and the past tense is dealt. Present tense is deal. So to deal with somebody means they're difficult, but you'll deal with them. You'll keep trying to talk to them or communicate with them. If you deal with a difficult situation, it means you survive this situation. You keep trying in this situation. You probably don't solve the problem completely, but you also don't quit. You deal with it. Past tense is dealt with. So she says, I have dealt with this difficult problem. It's actually present perfect, but anyway. I have dealt with him taking women to hotels. So her boyfriend takes other girls to hotels, and she's dealing with this, or she has dealt with this. So it means it keeps happening, and she keeps trying to survive the situation, but she can't. Another word or phrase with the same meaning is to handle a situation, to handle a person. So she could say, I have handled him taking women to hotels. It's the same basic meaning as dealt or deal. All right, and then she says in that same sentence, my gut tells me it was her. Her means his ex-wife, this one person. My gut tells me means you have a feeling, a deep feeling about some information or something. So my gut tells me it was her. It means she has a feeling, a deep feeling that it was this other woman. But she really doesn't know. A gut feeling, or to have your gut tell you, it means it's not your brain. It's not your logical, normal brain, not your normal mind. It's not that you have good information or you see something happen or you thinking clearly. It's more of an emotion, a deep instinct, a deep intuition, a deep feeling that something is happening or something is wrong. So my gut tells me it was her. She feels it was this other woman. Right? She's not sure. She didn't see the other woman, but she feels it. She feels it deep down. And gut means stomach. Right? Gut means stomach. So it means my stomach tells me. My gut tells me. So it's this deep feeling about something, an intuition. All right, and then starting the next paragraph, she says, I have tried to get over all the cheating. To get over something, of course it has a direct meaning, but in this it also has another meaning, and that is to get over means to forget or to forgive and forget. So I have tried to get over all the cheating. Cheating, of course, means him seeing other women. So she's tried to forget it. She's tried to get over it. She's tried to forget it and not worry about it anymore. To get over someone. For example, if you have an ex-girlfriend, you break up, and after 1 month, you're still very sad. Oh, I'm so sad, right? You can't get over her. But after 6 months, you feel okay, you forget her, it's no problem. If you see her, you're not upset. Then you can say, I got over her. Past tense, right? I got over her. Okay. A little bit later in that paragraph, you see the word, I stand up for myself against his family. I stand up for myself. To stand up for yourself means you fight for yourself. Now, it could mean really fighting with your, hitting and kicking, but usually it just means arguing. So if someone does something bad to you, you won't let them do it. You will say, hey, stop doing that. Don't do that. That's called standing up for yourself. I stand up for myself means I fight for myself. I argue for myself. I am strong for myself. I don't let other people attack me or treat me badly. I stand up for myself. I'm not sure she really does, but anyway, I stand up for myself. Okay, and then a little bit later, she says, I guess the bottom line is, knowing how much he still sees his ex-wife and that there's all this bad stuff happening with the child, the bottom line means the final problem or the conclusion, right? If you say, the bottom line is, I'm really angry, that means that's your final point. That's your main point. That's your conclusion. So maybe I talk a lot about many, many things, but finally, my conclusion, my main point is that I'm angry. The bottom line is that I'm angry. The bottom line is your main point. All right, let's keep going. And he says, I cannot stand her, this other woman. She cannot stand her. If you can't stand someone or can't stand something, it means you hate it. If you say, I can't stand English, it means you hate English. Of course, that's not true, but anyway. If you say, I can't stand Tom Cruise, it means you hate Tom Cruise. So you can't stand something, it means you hate it. And then a little bit later, she uses the phrase that he wants to have his cake and eat it too. To have his cake and eat it too. Or to have your cake and eat it too. This means you want two things, but really you must choose one, right? So if you have your cake, you keep your cake, then you can't eat it, because if you eat it, then it's gone, right? It disappears. It goes to your stomach. Now you don't have it anymore. So if you have a cake, you can keep it. You can keep it. It looks perfect. Everything's perfect. Or you can eat it, right? You can eat it, and then it's gone. But you cannot eat it and keep it at the same time. It's impossible. So this phrase, to have your cake and eat it too, it describes a situation where you want two things, but you really can only have one of them. Another example, you go to a store, you want to buy an iPod, and you have $150. And you say, I want to keep my money, and I also want the iPod. Well, it's impossible, right? You can only have one. You want to have your cake and eat it too. Okay, a little later, we see the word paranoid. Paranoid means you're scared of everybody and everything. And you think everybody wants to hurt you. You think everybody wants to cheat you or hurt you. That's paranoid. Then we see the word animosity a little bit later. Animosity is a feeling that you don't like somebody. It's a feeling that somebody is your enemy. If you say, I have animosity towards him, it means you think he is your enemy. You feel he is your enemy. Animosity, it means a feeling that someone is your enemy. And then finally, the last paragraph, we see the word dire. Dire. Dire means very difficult or dangerous or terrible. Like a dire situation is a very risky, difficult situation. Maybe dangerous. Or maybe just risky. It means it's easy to fail. It's easy that something bad will happen. Dire, a dire situation. A dire need means you have a terrible need. You really, really need something, or else you will suffer, or something bad will happen. And finally, the last phrase, to hook up with somebody. She says she always hooks up with bad men. To hook up with means to connect. Now, it can just mean to meet. I'm going to hook up with my friend at the movie. That means you're going to meet your friend at the movie. But it can have a dating meaning. If you hook up with somebody, it means you connect with them and you start dating them, or you just have sex with them. If you say, I hooked up with this girl at the bar, it means you met the girl at the bar and you probably went home and had sex. So to hook up with means to meet somebody, but it can also have this idea of just meeting someone and then having sex with them. All right, to hook up with. Let's move on to the mini story now. Mini story now. Mini story now.